So, welcome to episode 1.
Episode
Take
1.
two.
Take 2. Well, you know.
Of Moto Women 24/7. I'm Heather Callen.
I'm Jannine Jessup.
Jessup. And we love motorcycles. Like, we have a motorcycle affliction, a love affair.
We kind of eat, sleep, breathe, and repeat motorcycles.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And we both come from very different places in motorcycling. So we thought we'd share our story with you to kick this off. And then hopefully down the road, we're going to share a whole lot of other women's stories in motorcycling.
Absolutely. That's what this platform is for, so that we can share everything there is motorcycle with all the ladies.
Yep. And you don't necessarily have to be a rider. You can be a passenger. You can be a wrench. You can be just somebody who loves their man who motorcycles.
Yeah,
who rides,
absolutely.
Who motorcycles.
I like motorcycles.
I like
motorcycles.
I like motorcycles.
I do too.
Like I said, we're going to start this off by telling you a little bit about ourselves and how we got into motorcycles, where we're at now, and maybe some goals that we have for the future. Miss Jannine.
Yes, ma'am.
You'll see her hat, Dream Rides. That's Dream Rides Tennessee. So she has a wonderful husband who has an incredible business that he started.
He started 20 years ago, and he's had a couple of different business adventures, but we've persevered, and we now own Dream Rides of Tennessee, Dream Rides of California, and an online platform for people to go and buy their motorcycle parts. So, Team Dream Rides.
And you were not born into motorcycling. You did not come up motorcycling.
Absolutely the opposite. Absolutely. I grew up in a middle class. My dad worked, he was a union guy. My mom worked at a doctor's office. Mm-hmm. I was in dance class, and motorcycles were probably the furthest thing from my parents' mind. Mm-hmm. Never really had much exposure. I did ride a dirt bike once in high school, and it was the scariest experience ever. I Superman the damn thing. It was so dumb. And that was it. Awesome. That was it until I met my wonderful husband and got introduced to this lifestyle. And the crazy thing is I don't know what the hell I did before I rode motorcycles or had the community in my life that motorcycle has brought me. So, yeah.
And it hasn't been that terribly long that you've been on two wheels.
No. When I met John, again, no clue. So I would two up with him. Fell in love with it immediately. The freedom, the wind, the smells, the temperature changes, all the things that go on with motorcycling. And I two upped for 3 or 4 years. And then I expressed interest to John that I wanted to ride, but I wasn't ready for two wheels yet because I had no experience being on two wheels, and I didn't want to be that person out there.
Putting yourself
high anxiety wise, yeah.
Right.
So I started on a Can-Am Spider. It was, the 2 wheels in the front, single wheel in the back, and I would do my best to keep up with the guys, and that got me the exposure of watching them ride. I got to experience them and watching how they maneuvered these big machines, and eventually I was like, all right, I'm ready for 2 wheels. It's 3 wheels.
So your husband is a Harley guy
through and through.
Yep. I think he bleeds.
I'm pretty sure
Harley-Davidson.
Yeah.
How was it when you went to him and said, I want a Can-Am?
It was a shit show to start with. At first, I think his feelings were hurt because, for him, and rightfully so, he's been riding since he was a young man, so he doesn't remember or didn't remember at the time.
Yeah, it's like muscle, like it's second nature to them.
For him, it's just reflex. For me, I had to learn a whole new skill set.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is really watching out for other people, more so than even the riding skills, but being aware of your environment. I really think that every person who has a driver's license should have to take the motorcycle test too, so that they are aware.
So they understand.
Because it's just, you don't even realize how invisible a motorcycle can be.
Right, but, absolutely.
He was not happy with me. I was going to.
But then you got on the Can-Am.
And he actually test drove it for me.
Okay.
We went to the Can-Am dealer, and he's like, all right, I'm going to get on this thing, and that was it. He rode it around the block a couple times, and he's like, you know what? You're right. I think this is a good fit for you. And so that's what started it all.
I love that you were like, this is what I want to do. And then once you got on it and were able to ride with him as a rider versus a passenger, he dug that a lot more, didn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was scary for him though. Like it was a lot of him rear view mirroring, and then he'd want me to ride in front, and I didn't like that because I'm like, I don't know. I can base my speed off of what I can hear you downshift. I can watch your body position. If I'm in the front, I didn't have that skill level to know all those things. And I know I was on 3 wheels, but you know, you can still go around a corner at 80 miles an hour on one of those things. So.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, even in a car, like if somebody's behind you, you feel like they're pushing you.
Yeah, there's a
Do
little
you know
anxiety.
what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So I think it was a good choice for you to take up the rear position, because that way you didn't feel like they were like.
Yeah, I hated it. I hated it.
Because they're experienced. They want to go faster. They know what they're doing. They know how to go into the corner, the turns and stuff like that. So
exactly.
I think that's awesome. And you transitioned to 2 wheels.
I did.
How long ago?
I was trying to think about that the other day. I think I've been on 2 wheels 5 years now.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, I think it's been 5 years. I started out, he built me this great little FXR, but it was too much power for me at the beginning. And
I love that FXR.
I have.
Is it the
no,
sex
not
machine? Oh, okay.
Not sex machine.
Not sex
this was
machine.
just he put a recluse clutch in it, so I didn't have to worry about clutching out of first gear.
Okay.
He set it up really nice for me, but my NC was really short, and the body of the FXR is a little wide at the seat position.
Yep.
And we had it lowered all the way down, and I just didn't have the confidence in myself at the time to be comfortable not being flat-footed. So then he bought me a low rider ST, great bike, but again it was a lot of power. It was a lot of I just had a lot of anxiety. So one of the young ladies that's in the Hamsters group, which Heather and I are heavily involved with. Delaney Borneman, this little badass. This girl was on our ride to Sturgis, or I'm sorry, on John's ride to Sturgis, because I didn't ride the first couple of years he rode with them. Was on an Indian Scout, and he was so impressed at how she handled the bike. Right?
That's such a great bike.
So when he came home, when I met him in Sturgis, we went and kind of shopped Indian Scouts, and our friends at Arlen Ness had some there, and I purchased my first Indian Scout, and that really, I think, was the pivotal moment for me of where I was like, I can do this.
You can do this.
Because the bike was light, it handled really well. The throttle wasn't super overly responsive. So like if I made a mistake, you know, and
you could correct
I could correct it pretty quickly. And then I just rode the shit out of that bike. And then it was time, it wasn't heavy enough for me, and it didn't have enough storage. So that I went
You're on a Challenger now, right?
I'm on an Indian Challenger now. We're in the process of building me a road glide, which I'm super stoked about. Yeah, we'll be revealing that on our Moto Women's page.
Oh, that's
I got
awesome.
to do some takedown on that, which is kind of rad because I've never done any wrenching. So did a little takedown on that. He and I are gonna work on that together.
I love that.
A
I love
project.
that. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. So I totally forgot what I was gonna say.
That's all right. That sounds like our day most of the time.
Right. We get so excited when we get to be around each other because we live, 600 miles apart.
Yes.
So we get excited, and if we talk in circles, I'll apologize now, but you'll catch up.
That's right. Our ADHD might kick in. So.
Right. I love that you kind of graduated from one step to the other, to the next, instead of just coming out and being like, I'm going to do this. Because not everybody wants to ride. Like, for example, I don't ride.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've been around it for years.
Why don't you tell your story? I love your story.
How far back do you want me to go?
Let's go back to when motorcycles became part of your life.
Oh.
I mean, it's been a part of your life for a long time because you manage so many venues.
Right. Well, so I very much like Jannine did not come up in motorcycling at all. At all. I don't even know if I rode a bicycle much when I was a kid.
She was a New England princess.
Yeah. I just, my siblings, I have 5 siblings, and they're all significantly older than I am.
Right.
So, when I was 10, all my siblings were out of the house, and my parents were, not older, but they were older, and they, my mother was very heavily involved in her work, and she traveled a lot, and my dad, took care of me, but that was not their jam.
Right.
In any way, shape, or form. And quite frankly, I never thought motorcycles would be a part of my life.
Right.
At all.
Wasn't even in your wheelhouse.
And it was strictly by chance that I was working at a local hospital in Laconia. And I'm like, well, Laconia Bike Week, the country's oldest motorcycle rally, is in my town. I'm going to take advantage of it. I'll take some time off from work. I went to the Broken Spoke, and I'm like, hey, I want to, like, let me beer tub. Let me make a few extra bucks, whatever.
How old were you at this point?
Oh gosh, I was in my mid-20s. I was in my 20s.
Okay.
I think Amelia was 4 or 5 or whatever.
So you
I was
had
in
kids.
my 20s. Yeah, I had children. I had 2 children, and I was like, well, let me beer tub here in my town. And my husband at the time, he had a history in running security, and Jay Allen told me I was too chubby. He said I was too chubby to beer tub.
You know what, Jay Allen?
But you know what? It worked out because he said, I need a female security guard. I'm like, I know nothing about this. He's like, we'll teach you. Well, it turned out I was really good at it because in New Hampshire, the liquor laws are very strict, and I learned very quickly, and I learned how to de-escalate situations. I learned how to get people safely off their motorcycles when they had too much to drink. So I learned a lot through that. I learned a lot about, not so much about motorcycling, but the community that surrounded them.
Yeah.
So I came into it from a venue perspective.
Right.
And eventually I ended up, being one of their security members, to running their security, to being the operations manager of every Broken Spoke in the country.
That's pretty rad.
So I would work at the hospital during the day, and and I would take my vacation times, and I would come to Daytona for a few weeks and set up the Broken Spoke, and I would go to Sturgis for a few weeks and set up the Broken Spoke. And that was when the campground was still really new. 600-acre campground, which is now the Full Throttle.
It's crazy.
I used to call it the world's largest adult daycare center.
I think that's probably still apropos.
So that was the extent of my motorcycling experience. And my husband at the time had a motorcycle, and we rode a little,
Right.
We rode here and there, but I'll be honest, he was much more of a bar hopper.
Right. He wasn't an industry guy. He was a
not
writer.
an industry guy. He was a worker, and he was very much a bar hopper, which whatever. We divorced, and that was a whole disaster.
But you still stayed working.
But I still stayed at the Broken
Spoke.
Spoke. I still stayed at the Broken Spoke. I eventually left my hospital job because I got a full-time gig managing all these venues, and
right.
That was great. And I loved the people. I loved motorcycle people. They're the most genuine,
absolutely
generous, kind-hearted people I could ever ask for.
I agree. Sorry about the lighting, y'all. We're in Florida, and the weather here has Tourette syndrome. So the clouds just covered us. So I'm sorry if you can't see our faces. We're here.
We can fix it in post.
Perfect.
We can fix it in post. So anyway, after my husband and I separated and divorced, I had met Chris Callen, who owns my husband now, who owns Cycle Source magazine, through the Broken Spoke, and we were friends for years.
I love that story.
We really were. He was my best girlfriend. I would complain to him about, oh, my kids are doing this or whatever, and we connected. And
little did you know he was in love with you the whole time. Yeah.
But all through our friendship, he had a partner and I was married.
Right.
And I was completely oblivious. Oblivious that my best friend, had a thing for me.
I think women tend to do that.
And then one day it all changed, and the whole boy meets girl thing, we fell in love. Because what he would do is I would be at the Broken Spoke in Sturgis, or even here. And I don't know if you've ever run a 600-acre campground during a motorcycle rally, but it's very stressful. My work days literally were 22 hours.
I can't imagine.
It was 22
bunch of
my
rowdy-
radio would
rowdy
go off, somebody
teenagers.
hit a water main, or
Yeah.
whatever. It was 22 hours. So he would come in on his motorcycle and he'd be like, hey, we're going to get a soda pop. And he would
He'd
just take me
rescue
down
you.
the road, 15 minutes. I'd commiserate about my day, and then he would bring me back. And again, still my best girlfriend. And he tells this story too. And then one day everything changed.
He kissed you.
He kissed me, and I left
Jerk.
him. I left him standing in the middle of the Broken Spoke.
I love this.
I said, I have to go home now, and I didn't talk to him for the rest of the week.
What do I do?
But again, boy meets girl story, and we fell in love, and he's like, hey, if we're gonna do this, I need you to I need you to be part of the magazine. And at that point, I knew nothing. I was like, oh, that's pretty, it sparkles, it goes fast. I knew nothing about motorcycles.
Right.
So I was like, all right. I moved down, and I built my first motorcycle with him.
That is so fucking amazing. I'm sorry.
No,
There'll probably be
it's
a few
okay.
F-bombs during the show because I have a potty mouth and
Yeah,
she does not. It'll be me.
No, sometimes I do.
Sorry.
Sometimes I do. And he's like, hey, if you're going to do this magazine thing with me, I need you to learn what these men and women go through to build a custom motorcycle.
Absolutely.
How much time and effort and like the passion that goes into it. So
The engineering
yep,
alone. Yeah.
So we had a 1973 Ironhead Sportster, that somebody left in his driveway, that with a note on it that said, "Make something cool out of me."
Oh, that's awesome.
And it had just been sitting there, so we tore it all down, and I learned how to build a motorcycle, and that's that little bored to death bike that we have.
Love it.
It's a little board track inspired Ironhead that we did everything on. Like if you look at it, it's got a right side tank shift, and I learned how to sand, grind, all of those things.
What impresses me about Heather is, and I'm still kind of at the it's shiny point with motorcycles. Like the first thing I notice is a paint job.
Yep.
And I can identify types of bikes.
Right.
But this girl, she'll be like, oh, this is a bup, 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 bup. I'm like, go, girl.
I've learned. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I moved to Pennsylvania with Chris in 2014.
10 years this year.
10 years this year.
It's crazy.
And I'm still learning. Like there's so much to learn, but he has taught me so much about motorcycling, and I've learned so much about the motorcycle people. I went from never thinking it would be a part of my life to not being able to imagine my life without it.
Pretty crazy, huh?
It really is.
Yeah.
And I'll be very transparent through all of this, building, working with him on Cycle Source magazine, and we have Grease and Gears TV now, and we have the Smoke Out Rally. So
you guys have your hand.
We have a lot, like we work a lot. We don't ride nearly as much as we'd like to.
We're working on that.
Because the keeping custom motorcycling at the forefront is priority for us.
Absolutely.
And the people that love it. But I've never had the time to ride. I've always wanted to ride, but it takes time and practice and patience and confidence.
Really, I think that's the key there. And again, for me, I lacked that. So it took me a long time to get there. And I'm still learning. There's still things. I've got to ride with some amazing women. Andrea LaBarbera.
Oh my God.
Who has done how many cannonballs?
Chase, the Great American Race. And she's gonna kill me if she hears this and watches it. She is the woman that I want every little girl to meet and say.
Oh, me too. I can't wait to have her on our show. I cannot wait to have her here.
Excited. Yeah. I'm so excited. But she's incredible, and she's so down to earth
and woman positive.
Absolutely.
She's not a clicky bitch, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, one of my biggest hindrances for me, as much as I want to ride a motorcycle, is my lack of confidence. And I think I've come to the realization this week that yes, I am going to take the motorcycle safety class.
And we're going to document this, by the way. It's going to be so awesome because I know that there's women out there who have an interest, maybe on the fence,
or have had a bad experience. Like me, I had a bad experience at a Harley dealer.
Oh, you got to tell that story.
I started to take the class at a Harley dealer, and the new general manager at the dealer came out during the class.
How far into it were you?
I was on
halfway.
I was halfway through it.
So you're already doing skills.
So I was already
you're
doing
on the bike.
skills, and I was going a little bit slow, but I wasn't dropping the bike, and but I was nervous.
I dropped
very
mine
nervous. Yeah. And this general manager, who happened to be a woman, came out and yelled at me in front of the class. So here I am struggling with self-confidence, struggling with, I've always had, and there's going to be a lot of revelations in this, and if I share too much, whatever. I've always struggled with what other people think of me.
Absolutely.
Very much
well,
so.
that's our culture. Our women's culture is really, we're so fucking hard on ourselves.
Is somebody watching me? Am I going to be embarrassed or whatever? And she came out and scolded me for not going fast enough in the middle of the class. I parked my bike and walked away.
I'm laughing because I can sympathize with how humiliating that must have been.
It was horrible.
Especially when you already have anxiety and all the things about riding
like, and
a bike.
I was so proud that I was doing it. Like I had stepped out of my comfort zone, which is not always easy. And I was doing it.
And she cut your knees out.
And she literally kneecapped me.
Well, and that's part of the reason why Heather and I decided to do this podcast, shmodcast, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Because there's not a lot of, I'm going to call it women positivity or even women support out there in the motorcycle business industry. And there are so many women who are industry leaders that nobody even knows about.
Well, and I want to acknowledge that it is the fastest growing segment in motorcycling. However, I come from a very different train of thought. I don't want to be a female rider.
No.
Or a female publisher or a female builder. I just want to be a rider. I just want to be a builder. I want to be a publisher.
Right.
I don't need my gender
to necessarily be a trademark of that. But I do think on the flip side of that, creating a community for women to go to where they feel safe.
Yes.
And it's happened to me. Like this happened like the end of the season, last season. I was riding my bike to work. I'm a real estate agent. And I wanted to be on my bike the day. The weather was great. I pull out of my neighborhood. I make a right. I get to the main drag, which is like right by the freeway. And this guy comes up behind me on his bike, right up next to me. And he's roostering.
Look at me.
Right. And then he followed me into the parking lot of my brokerage. And I took my helmet off. He's like, "What's a pretty lady like you doing on this bike? Are you single?" And I was like, that's not okay.
No, that's not okay in any situation.
No,
whether it's in a car, like whatever.
I forget where I was going with that. As far as like, this is where I was going with that. Having a safe space for women to ride together, to be able to. So my response to him, and it was probably a little bit bitchy, but I don't really care, was, "Oh, do you know my husband?" Right. And I name dropped John Jessup. Well, ironically, he had been to our shop and had his bike worked on at the shop.
He
so
must
it
have
was
felt
immediate.
Like a giant jackass.
Oh, he was like, "Tell your husband I said hi." And he said, "Don't tell your husband that I followed you." I was like, "Yeah, that probably isn't a really good thing to do to any woman."
Yeah, that's a bad habit.
Bad habit.
That's a bad habit.
So creating a place where us ladies can go, and not necessarily being women exclusive, but giving a place where women can have a place to go.
Right, and that's one thing that I've noticed, and even despite us, our segment being the fastest growing, I find that, unfortunately, it's very cliquey.
Very cliquey. It's like high school.
I find that it's very cliquey, and I find that while they're trying to be inclusive, they're exclusive all at the same time.
Right. Well, we've talked about this several times, the women-only rides.
And I don't understand it.
Right. It's hard because, again, I think they're trying to build. I see the merit in it and where they're going for it. And what they're going for is to give a platform, a place for women to have a voice, a place for women to have to go and have community. However, I don't know of any all male ride ever.
No.
It's like, okay, like let's celebrate women, but let's not celebrate women in an exclusionary.
Because I'm going to be
fashion.
perfectly honest. Like, I wouldn't know what I know about motorcycles without my husband.
No, I don't know. I wouldn't ride a motorcycle. I wouldn't know how much it helps my mental health to be on my motorcycle. I wouldn't know any of that stuff. Yeah.
And I'm going to jump around a little bit here. I want to go back to the Can-Am real quick.
Yeah.
I had the revelation this week that, yes, I want to ride. I think I will be better on a three-wheeler.
Well, and I think it's a good
but
place
psychologically,
to start.
and for me, I think about, because I'm a klutz.
Same.
I'm a total klutz. Sometimes I'm a flake, and I'm like, dur, 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 dur. But I worry about my coordination. So I think if I can start out something that will help me build my confidence.
And it'll build your skill. You're going to learn how to adjust the clutch to the gas and all the
exactly.
things.
And I had that conversation with Chris, and while he's supportive, I could see that's going to take an extra place on the trailer.
No, you just write it. I'm just kidding.
But then it was interesting that one of his concerns was, he says, "Well, I don't want you to not ride with me anymore." I'm like, that's not going to happen. I love riding on the back of my husband's
Especially
motorcycle.
On the choppers. Like, how fun is that?
Yeah. I'm a chopper chick through and through.
Right.
I love all motorcycles. I really do. They're not necessarily my cup of tea, but I have learned to appreciate the craftsmanship and the time and the passion that goes into building every motorcycle.
Absolutely.
But I'm a chopper chick.
And it's so funny because I
straight
think your husband and my husband, while they are worlds apart in the way that they build and think and ride, are not different at all.
No, not at all.
You know, and
Not at all.
again, for us, we're not chopper people. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really have much exposure to choppers
Right.
until you and I got together. And I'm going to tell you, I love it. I have such an appreciation for the artwork.
It's
and
completely
whatever.
different. It's a different ride. It's a different everything. And it's funny because, I mean, my newest motorcycle is, or I should say our newest motorcycle
It's yours.
is a 2003 Ultra Classic. Everything else I have is like 1940. We have two 1949 panheads and
Right.
73 and 79. And, you know, but it's funny over the past couple years, I see Chris more and more like, I want a Dyna. I want an FXR. Like, he loves the Lowrider ST. Or, you know, right now we have the Indian Sport Chief.
Oh, that's a
on
great
loan
bike
from
too,
us.
yeah?
And he's like, I could have this. I'm like,
Well, and sometimes it's nice to get on a bike
And just
to
go.
click a button
Yep.
and it goes. And you're not thinking about as a builder or as a whatever while
Right.
you're riding down the road, because there's all these things going on.
Yeah.
You're able to just enjoy what you enjoyed from the beginning, and that was riding a motorcycle.
yep, absolutely. And I don't think he'll ever have a stock motorcycle.
John
But
either.
that's okay. But that's okay. There's
Nothing
I
wrong
don't
with
care
that.
what it is. I
No.
mean, we're sitting next to a Honda.
Right? So
know.
we're at I'm a brain fart.
We're at Gary Raphael's house, and we've kind of commandeered one of his bar.
Yep.
And this just happens to be in his bar area.
He and his beautiful lady are
And,
always
yep.
so kind to open their home to us during Daytona and any other
And
time, really,
Biketoberfest
and
and-
all the things.
And it's great because they love motorcycles too.
Yeah, this house is decorated. It's awesome.
Yeah, there's motorcycle stuff everywhere you look.
Let's go back to you were talking about the 3-wheel and
Yeah,
and
and
like where you see yourself in that and not
I
being
think-
embarrassed. Like,
No.
when did you come to the conclusion that it was okay for you to want what you wanted and
You
not
know,
what
it
your
was
husband
really-
wanted?
I've been going back and forth with it for a while.
Right.
And it was really this week that I was like, I'm like, mentally, if I'm going to do this, this is how I have to start.
Right.
Because I'm watching other people ride and I'm watching the, shifting and, and how they're doing that. And I'm like, I need to start this way.
Right.
Because like, I'll forget to put my feet down.
You won't, I promise. But
But
I
you
agree
know
with
what
you.
I mean? I would
do.
rather start someplace where I'm comfortable.
I did. That's exactly
And
what
then
I did.
transition up. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, my husband is very custom centric. I don't know if he'll ever let me get on a Can-Am.
No, I think
But
he's gonna build you a trike for you,
Right,
which
exactly.
is great.
Yeah, which is great because then I get to build it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and when I say build it, I do currently help with a lot of like the teardowns and the
This bitch is talented.
yeah, I
Don't-
do.
don't let
I
her-
help
don't
with a
let her
lot. I
fool you.
don't weld, but I'll do pretty much everything else. Would I like to learn to weld? Yeah, I would.
That'd be awesome.
Eventually I would. But I help with a lot of the design cues and the paint designs and all of those things. So it's kind of a team effort from
Absolutely.
start to finish. So it's cool. I've learned an awful lot over the years, but now it's time for me to take the next steps.
Yes. Well, and I think documenting that is going to give women an opportunity. Because when you Google women who ride, or if you go on Instagram and you hashtag that, and no offense to these young women they're good looking and they ride motorcycles, there's not a lot of information. It's visual. It's
Yes.
them doing wheelies or
Right.
kind of stunt riding or just being sexy on their bike. And while you do you, boo boo.
Yep.
Me, as a woman who wasn't of that age, a little bit older, I wanted information. I wanted to
Yes.
know, because I'm just that chick. I have ADD and OCD, and I
like,
want to
oh,
know.
how do we do this?
I want to know all the things before I get involved in something.
And I'm not gonna lie, a lot of my hesitation was, am I too old to learn? I'm gonna be 50 this year.
We are both celebrating
Yep.
our 50th birthdays
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, am I too old to learn how to ride?
no.
And then I look at my
No.
sister. My sister was 54 when she learned to ride.
Okay.
Because she wanted a motorcycle and a bet. Never had any aspirations to ride a motorcycle until Somebody made a stupid bet. She won the motorcycle.
She's
She
like,
won
okay.
a Sportster, and now she rides every chance she gets.
That's awesome.
You know, she's going to be 60 this year. She's been riding for 6 years. She's on her 3rd or 4th motorcycle.
That's great.
You know, so I'm like, well, if she can do it, I can do it.
You absolutely can do it. And again, it comes down to having building. I didn't say having the confidence. It's building the confidence. And
Absolutely.
I started on the 3-wheel, and I'm not saying everybody needs that, because there are lots of women who
No.
don't. They go straight on a big old bagger, and that's
Yeah,
fine. That's
right?
you. That's perfect.
Yep.
But that's
And
not what worked for
everybody's
me.
different.
Yeah.
One of the things I hope to do through this is you can be in motorcycling and love motorcycles and not pilot your own bike.
Absolutely. There's
If you ride with your husband, that's just being a passenger.
I think it's worse.
Right, because you're not in control.
No, you have no
But you
control.
still need to know how to ride as a passenger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You
You
need to
know?
be a good passenger, so that you're
Yes.
one, you're safe with your partner, and 2, you're safe for yourself. So, you know, gear, and I'm guilty. I'll ride without all the right gear, but you know.
I am too. I'll be very honest. Like, typically, if you see me on Chris's motorcycle, I have jeans on,
Yeah.
sneakers or boots, and 9 times out of 10, depending on the weather, a tank top.
Yeah, same.
And that's it.
Same.
Like, I'm guilty unless we're highway riding. I typically do not wear a helmet unless I'm in a helmet state.
No, see, I'm the opposite. And
Yep.
I was this way already, but I broke my neck in a mini bike accident a couple of years ago.
I'm not laughing at her.
Oh, you can laugh at me all you want. It's great, because even though
A mini bike.
it was a fucking mini bike.
fucking mini
I
bike.
ride a big old bagger, and I break my neck riding a mini bike. But so for me, from even here in Florida, I got my full face on because I had a traumatic brain injury, and, like, you know, all the things. And so for me, just personally, I can't imagine getting back on a motorcycle without having some head protection.
Right. And you know, and there are times, like I said, if we're highway riding, I will always wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Not that that's any more dangerous than the backcountry roads in Western Pennsylvania.
Right.
But
Yeah, because at 25, hitting the pavement's gonna not be fun either.
right, exactly. But there's just something for me. One of the things, for me, helmets are heavy.
Is Pennsylvania a no helmet state?
No helmet
You
state.
don't have to wear one.
No.
We live in Tennessee now, and it's a requirement. And I came from California, where it's a requirement.
Yep. So that's different. And I'm from, you know, I lived in New Hampshire for 20 years, which is no helmet.
helmets. Yeah. So you grew
all
up
of
with
my
that being normal.
motorcycling experience has been in no helmet states. I mean, granted, we travel all over the country and we ride everywhere. And I usually do have a helmet with me when we need it.
We should do some research on that to see what the percentages of helmet states versus not helmet states there are. I know South Dakota does not have a requirement, correct?
Correct. Yep. But like, one of the things for me is finding a helmet that when you're going down the highway at 75, 80 miles an hour, that's not hurting
The back of your neck.
the back of my neck, or that I'm not like
Or you're not headbutting your husband.
right. That, and
That's
it
not a
sounds
fun thing
stupid
either.
because I'm not super strong, but I'm not.
It requires muscle work to hold up a helmet on your head.
Absolutely. And I do know that as technology, you know, they're getting lighter and they're getting better.
They have carbon fiber
They have
ones.
carbon
and
fiber.
Yeah. I'm testing out my newest helmet is one of the Cenas that has, you know, all the system inside of it.
Oh, that's
But it's a
nice.
modular. It'll be my first modular because I tend to ride with my visor up all the time.
Yep.
And then it ends up ripping or messing with the piece.
Yep.
So I'm going to do some test stuff with this one.
Yeah, I usually ride with a 3/4. I do have a full face modular again for like when we did our honeymoon, we left from Sturgis, South Dakota. We took 18 days with a tent and 2 sleeping bags and no itinerary.
I love that.
But we went through Yellowstone and Neah Bay, Washington, down through the Redwoods and PCH, and best trip of my life. And I wore a helmet every day.
Right.
So
Let's go back to talking about what we're going to bring to this.
Yep. I want
Whatever you wanna call it.
Like education.
Education. We're going
And
to
I
have.
don't necessarily like this word, but I'm going to use it. Empowerment.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
You know.
I think, and not even necessarily just for women, because there may be some men that are that watch this that may have been on the fence, and guys don't talk about their feelings. Guys don't talk about their fears. Maybe this could help propel that person to want to take the class or experience motorcycle riding.
And I know we've talked to Melissa Schrum from Revolution Performance.
I can't wait to interview her.
She's going to come on, and not only are we going to interview her, but she's going to help us do some educational segments.
Tech stuff.
Yes. Like, we want people to learn. I want to do, like, talk about products.
Absolutely. We're going to do product review. We're going to do
one of the things that
gear.
drives me crazy about gear. Why is women's gear so much more expensive than men's?
And everything has a
it's
fucking
usually
rhinestone
smaller.
on it.
Like, women's gear is usually smaller.
It's smaller. It's because women,
But we pay more.
We pay more. Yeah. Absolutely.
But like, it's blingy. It's
but there are some good products out there that are available, and we're gonna spend some time and we're gonna test them out, and it'll be a true review. It won't be like some paid YouTube.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of everything. A little bit of getting to know people, a little bit of education, and it really struck me. We were on the High Seas rally, and there was a young lady in the audience that said, "I've been riding for 3 years, and I know nothing about my motorcycle."
Right.
For me, I can't knowingly get on a motorcycle if I don't know the basic. Okay.
How do I check my tires?
How do I check my tires?
How do I check
my oil? Like,
all the things. What are the
what
safety things that you need to make sure you're looking at every time, and why it's important to wash your own bike so that you're looking at the components that ultimately will save your life if you need them.
That's something I learned from Chris. Like, I hate washing our motorcycles. Nobody washes it. Like, but we don't do it to make. Like, honestly, we do not wash our motorcycles to make sure they're pretty. We do it so we can touch every nut, bolt, everything to make sure nothing's loose.
And I have to say, I'm kind of guilty. I'm a little spoiled. I'm a little bit of a motorcycle princess because my husband, we own a shop, we have lifts. Yeah. There are times when, again, I have another life.
You have
outside
resources.
I have people that can help me get that. And not everybody has that, though. So the idea is to bring it to you so you can do it yourself.
Prime example, we were getting our panhead. It's a 1949, custom chopper that he built from start to finish, full frame build, everything. He was getting it ready to bring to a show the other day. And we lost one of the motor mount bolts. And we would not have known if we weren't going to clean up the bike.
Yeah.
I mean, a motor mount bolt.
That's a big deal.
And we had been riding that, like, we've ridden the bike all week.
Right.
But that's why we clean our motorcycle, not to make sure it's pretty.
Exactly. So that's the kind of shit we're going to bring to you. Yeah. And it's not shit. And again, sorry for the potty mouth.
You were pretty good today.
I didn't drop too many F-bombs. And so Heather and I, when we first talked about doing this, and then it really kind of came to fruition. And
it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Yeah. Like, sometimes it literally might just be us bullshitting. Hopefully we're going to have some great guests. I think we might call in some favors, and maybe we can get Karen Davidson on. So we're at Daytona
That would
Bike
be
Week
so
this
rad.
week. And I've met Karen
You're
before.
going to have to pop a picture of that into this.
We'll drop that in. I've met Karen Davidson before, and she's rad. I have to tell this story.
You fangirled. I love it.
So I fangirled a little bit, but I should tell the story a little bit back. We were on a ride with her, just happened to be on a ride with her. I think it was the women's ride here a few years ago, and Chris was on our shovelhead chopper.
Awesome.
And Karen Davidson rode up beside my husband, and she's like, I love that motorcycle. He had
a motorcycle boner for hours.
Are you kidding me? He was like, Karen Davidson loves my motorcycle. Not hours. It was like weeks. I think he put it in the magazine. He was like, Karen Davidson likes my motorcycle.
I love that. That's rad.
Which is great because she is such a force in this industry.
Right.
And she, like, I would love
just a badass in her own right.
I wonder if we can pull some strings and get her.
I would love to. Karen Davidson, if you're here watching this, because I know you're everything motorcycle, we would love to sit down and talk with you and share your experience in motorcycling with the world.
Not everybody who's born into it follows it.
Follows that path. No, for sure.
I would love to hear.
Same.
I would love to hear that story.
And again, there's so many women that we've come across that either are part of the industry and they have we're going to call it a backstage appearance, so you don't even know that they're doing these things. Yeah. Melissa Schrum is one of those.
I'm Jenny Bass,
the racer,
Vintage
right?
Motorcycles. So I got to talk to her for a few minutes the other day. She races Sons of Speed. She's done, I think she ice races, and she does all sorts of racing.
And she's a fairly new rider, right?
She's been riding for 5 years.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
And she started learning how to ride on a knucklehead. She's never ridden a modern motorcycle.
Wow.
Like the newest motorcycle she's ever ridden is like a 1950 something.
Wow. So she knows how to do the choke and the kick and all the things.
All of that. She's never ridden a modern motorcycle. And she hasn't taken the class yet.
Well,
which she's doing this year because she wants to learn. Yeah, and she's our age.
Innate. I
which is
love
incredible.
That. So, Jenny Bass, if you're listening or you're watching,
yeah, I already told her. I'm telling everybody.
We're coming for you, girl.
I think it's going to be cool. Maybe.
I think it's going to be great. I think
if nothing else, we'll be able to sit and talk and
catch up,
have a drink every now and
then,
do
all the things. Yeah, we may have.
Are we allowed to drink on the show?
I don't know why can't we? I don't know if that's FCC
If we can
regulation.
swear, I think we can drink.
I think we can do whatever the fuck we want to do. It's going to be our show. And ladies, you can reach out to us at
Instagram,
I guess on
Instagram,
Facebook.
Moto Women 24/7.
Mm-hmm. If you have ideas about things you want us to talk about, if you have
questions,
or if you're somebody who's interested in being interviewed that wants to spread some information, it could be a charity, it could be
even if there's guys that you want us to talk to.
Hell yeah!
Amen. This is not all just
again. While this is we call it Moto Women. It's because we're Moto
chicks.
Women. We actually started calling it Moto Wives, but that doesn't really.
She actually started calling it Twat Talk.
I did. Twat Talk, Vagina Monologues.
Yeah, but that's already a play.
It is, and that also led some unsavory characters to like our Instagram page. So I did today. I took them down today because I was like, although Twat Talk is still my favorite, and we're gonna make some shirts. So if you guys want a Twat Talk shirt, reach out to us. That'll be an exclusive.
Exclusive, yeah. I've had so many requests for the Twat Talk shirt.
Same.
Mom, I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm so sorry, Mom. So if you want to see more Moto Women 24/7, Instagram, Facebook, we're both going to try to be better about posting there and keeping it up to date. But
and we're going to try and do at least one podcast a month or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Sometimes we'll be live, sometimes it will be pre-recorded, but we want you guys to be a part of it, and we want you to dig what we're doing.
Yeah, and welcome to our first episode. I hope that you were entertained, that you got some information.
If you have questions, let us know if we didn't cover something about ourselves, because
absolutely,
I'm
an open book.
Yeah, me too.
I'll tell anybody anything about me and about my life. So.
Me too, for the most part. It's a shit show.
Well, we are the queen of the shit shows. It's all right.
Oh, we are the queens of the shit show. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, it is.
Girl power. Girl power.